We have another question from actress Julia Ormond, sitting, I believe, over there.
Hi. I want to take the opportunity to thank President Clinton for convening a space where someone like myself has been able to come and to learn and to grow and to engage on a completely different level. You articulate the world in a way that is settling and enables me to get to the table and get to it. And this week we've been able to celebrate and watch the fantastic example of Coalition of Immokalee Workers work, where they have battled against enslavement in tomato picking supply chains in Florida. And they've managed to work with companies to come on board and look at the supply chain and provide workers' rights to them so that they're not abused, they're not beaten, they're not threatened with being killed should they walk away, and the women aren't raped. It's shocking for us that this is going on in Florida, in the world at all, and that it's coming right onto our table and into our mouth. I work within an NGO movement that really is poised to scale that, copy that model. There are people like Verite who are ready to do it and get into supply chains. But we're really challenged because this is such a tricky issue. It's such a threatening issue for companies. My ask is, what is it that the NGO community can do better? How can we do a better job to enable companies to come on board and work with us and help us get to the infrastructure of not just the why, not just the what do you do and how do you do it, but well, where do you do it?
I'll let John answer the question, but I'll give you one example. Don't forget, we have one of the big enablers of the success of the Immokalees is Walmart. You never think of it. They figured out if you pay 1 cent a pound more, you can virtually double the income of all these tomato workers. You can change their lives. So you got to have, that's a very unusual coalition. The people that are helping the union of people helping the farm workers. And I think you start with transparency, and then if you can put a cost on it, it then looks absurd to leave these people in indentured servitude for a penny a pound. And you can get like 90% of the consumers believe that they're doing the right thing. It crosses, otherwise impermeable political and psychological and economic barriers, and particularly for the farm workers who are picking fruits and vegetables. If you can put a price on it and make it transparent, you can give people that you wouldn't expect to support you. The Immokalee has been brilliant at it. But I think everybody wonders, what I wondered when I read about it is, how in God's name did it take this long to get here? So that's my advice. I think you got a success model, and you ought to put the pedal to the metal, just keep doing it, but realize somebody's got to buy this stuff before it gets to consumers. And they're much more sensitive to the reality of workers than they used to be, particularly once it's transparent. It's like all that stuff that happened when all those factories started burning up in South Asia.
Yeah.
And we realized the miserable circumstances those textile workers were in. Knowing about it, fleshing it out, and then working the true economics out. So we have to pay $1 or more for a shirt or whatever, makes a big difference. Transparency is everything. Do you agree with that?
I do. And this is one that we saw a very similar scenario on in high tech, because most of our components come from outside the U.S. and many of the developed countries. And there were issues going around the world in these factories where the employees were not being treated properly, and candidly child labor laws were, in our opinion, being violated. And so we came up with high tech, several of us led by example, and said, here's what we expect out of all our suppliers. If you don't live up to these commitments, we will not purchase from you. And then as you begin to make this a movement, then candidly you also pull along people that are hesitant. So I'd be honored to take that as an action item to work with you. I'll make some of the key calls to the key consumers of the products. And there's nothing like a key 2 or 3 companies that stand up Walmart's an excellent example. Their track record on this has been very good. If you get the businesses saying this is what we expect, and then you also look at it economically on how we do it, this is manageable. So I'll take it as an action item, and I'll get your contact right after this meeting.
Good.